How's everybody doing today? So here I am in Warren, Michigan, which is in Detroit, just north, and I'm here to visit the grave of a very, very, very famous singer who had a very, very tragic life. This is Florence Ballard. Now her grave is listed as Florence Chapman. That was her husband's name that she took. And it's very windy out, so I'm gonna have to do voiceover for most of it. But let's find Florence's grave and I'll tell you a little bit about her. Florence Ballard was a founding member of the Supremes. She was born in Detroit on June 30th, 1943, the ninth of 15 children. When she was 15, her family settled in the Brewster Douglas housing project, and her father died of cancer the following year. Around that time, she became friends with doo-wop trio The Primes, two of whom would later form the Temptations. When the group's manager, Milton Jenkins, decided to create a sister act called the Primettes, he made Ballard the founding member. He also relied on her to form the rest of the band. Ballard convinced Mary Wilson, who she met at a talent show, to join her, and also enlisted the services of her neighbor, 15-year-old Diane Ross, before she became Diana. And here she is right here. The Primettes played talent shows, sock hops, and parties around Detroit and landed on audition with Berry Gordy, head of what would eventually become Motown Records. Gordy liked their sound but told them they were too young and advised them to stay in school. Not long after, Florence was raped at knife point by a high school basketball player. She went into seclusion for a while, months later finally telling her group mates about the attack. And according to friends, Florence was not the same after the rape, becoming more distrustful, pessimistic, and self-destructive. She would later drop out of high school, but managed eventually to rejoin the Primettes. By 1960, Berry Gordy felt the girls were ready to record, and he relaunched them as the Supremes, a name chosen by Florence herself. Their second release was called Buttered Popcorn. It was the only one that featured Florence as the lone vocal lead. And though the song wasn't a huge hit nationally, it was a regional hit. A year later, Diana Ross had taken over as the group's lead vocalist, with the others now mostly relegated to backup roles, a situation that did not sit well with Florence. She was known as the sassy one of the group, never shy about expressing her opinions, but she wanted to stick with the group anyway. Success didn't come right away, however, and around the Motown USA studios, the group was jokingly referred to as the No-Hit Supremes. Finally, in 1964, they found their way to the top of the charts with a tune that they were reluctant to record, Where Did Our Love Go? Within a year, the Supremes were international stars and were arguably the second most popular act in the world behind the Beatles, and they appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show no fewer than 17 times. But tensions in the group were simmering, and it became clear that Berry Gordy considered Diana Ross the star. So when Florence came down with a sore throat before a show, Diana Ross stepped in to sing lead on Ballard's signature song, People. After that, Gordy gave the song to Diana Ross, and depressed, Florence battled with her weight and alcohol, struggling at times to fit into her dresses and missing shows and recording dates because of her drinking. Then Berry Gordy quickly replaced her with another singer, Cindy Birdsong. For the 6 years that she was with the Supremes, one that saw the group release 10 number-one singles, Florence Ballard was given a one-time payment of $139,804. As part of the agreement, she wasn't allowed to promote herself as a former Supreme or even mention having been associated with Motown Records. Nevertheless, she persisted, and Florence tried to launch a solo career, but 2 singles failed the charts, and then ABC Records shelved her album. She took time off to raise 3 children she had between 1968 and 1971, but in 1971, her husband left her, and her house was foreclosed on. She sued Motown for additional royalties, but lost. Just a few years after founding the hottest group in the country, she was on welfare. Florence began drinking heavily, but her fortunes did improve a bit when she won an insurance settlement and was able to buy a small house for her family in Detroit. By 1975, she had reconciled with Diana Ross and was talking about trying to relaunch her singing career, but on February 21st, 1976, years of hard living caught up with her, and she died from a blood clot in one of her arteries at the age of 32. Stevie Wonder, the Four Tops, Mary Wilson, Diana Ross all came out to pay tribute to the founder and one of the most important acts of the 60s. Years later, When Jennifer Hudson won the Oscar for her role in Dreamgirls, a movie inspired by the Supremes, she dedicated her award to Florence Ballard, who, quote, never got a chance. This has been one of the easier graves I've tried to find. Just come right in the front entrance right there. Go straight ahead and pretty much directly in front of you in the first little area. Right here, section D. Right here, Florence Ballard. A real pioneer in the music industry. Stood up for herself at a time when women, especially women entertainers, weren't supposed to. They're supposed to do what they're told. She went into such a sad decline afterwards. Treated so unfairly. Check out her cover of Yesterday, the Beatles song, online. You can hear the pain and you can hear the hurt in her voice as she sings it. It's a beautiful version. What a gorgeous voice. Florence Ballard. Okay. Hope everyone's having a good day. Peace. Peace and love to Florence Ballard. Peace and love to you. Peace out.